I've lived my entire life in this area, and I know this market, and because we want to property manage every deal that we bring to market, our rule is, all right, we got to be within an hour of it. And, one day I might be 2 hours from it because I'm up at the top end of our area and I got to go to the other end. But we have a team, so somebody's always within 20 minutes of one. But, those kind of emergencies don't happen very often. But I think this is one of the most incredible markets in the country right now.
Welcome to the Creating Wealth Podcast, where Kyle Curtin takes you on an extraordinary journey alongside renowned multifamily real estate sponsors and syndication experts from every corner of the United States. We teach you how to harness the power of passive real estate investing and witness the transformation of your wealth building strategy. Let's create wealth together.
What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 138 of the Creating Wealth Podcast. My name is Kyle Curtin. I am a co-GP in multifamily syndications targeting Central and Western Mass. Today, we get the great pleasure of chatting with Steward Heath. Stewart is the CEO of Harvard Grace Capital, based out of Tennessee. What's going on, Stewart? How you doing today, man?
Thank you, Kyle. I really appreciate you having me on. It's quite the honor.
Thank you. It means a lot, man. I'm excited to kind of get into your story a bit and chop it up about the things that we know and love, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So to kind of jump right in, man, pretty much like anywhere you want to jump in about like how you got into real estate or, how do you got into the particular, side of the business that you're in now. Anywhere that you want to jump in is totally cool.
Yeah, sure. I'll jump in. I'm an old guy, so my journey here might take a minute. But so I'm a CPA. So I got out of college in 1985, and in 1986, the federal government passed the 1986 Tax Reform Act, which devastated the then real estate investing world and pretty much devalued most of the apartment buildings in the country that had been structured under what was then known as the tax shelter industry. And so I just sort of came of age, if you would, as a CPA and in my young career, thinking that real estate was bad. And I remember hearing bankers talking about, how they didn't invest on real estate anymore, and I spent several years as a CPA helping clients unwind, dozens of LP investments that they had invested in, these things that had gone bankrupt. And so, how do we account for that and blah, blah, blah. So that's when I was with Pricewaterhouse right out of college. And then a few years after that, started my own firm, picked up several clients, a lot of whom happen to be in the real estate business. So, so I'm watching and learning and they're doing fix and flips, and they're buying small apartment buildings. And sometimes they're just building homes, or, they're just making money in real estate. Both, sometimes they're brokers, whatnot. And I'm not paying a whole lot of attention. Along comes the year 2000, and I've got a pretty good practice going. I'm making pretty good money, but it's middle of March. I'm in the middle of tax season. It's about 2:00 in the morning, and I'm taking a break because I wasn't done for the day yet. And I'm just sitting here on the sofa. So look, what am I doing? I'm making a lot of money, but I'm not building any wealth. And along comes this infomercial from a guy named Carlton Sheets, who was sort of the first infomercial guy of how to buy real estate with no money down. And he was the real thing. So here I am, CPA, thinking I'm above such things. And Sure enough, I bought the course for $149, money back guarantee, and start going through it. And it's pretty good stuff. And within a few months, I had bought my first house. It just sort of dawned on me at that moment that maybe I should do what my clients are doing. Sort of as a CPA, one of my goals was I want to be one of those people that hires a CPA to do my taxes someday, and rather than me doing everybody else's. And so I began. I bought a duplex as a rental property, and I kept sort of working the system. And then 6 months or so later, I bought a package of 14 duplexes, and next thing I knew, gee whiz, I got 30 units that I need to manage, and so forth and so on. I ended up building some houses and developing. Ended up buying a condo complex and redeveloped those, and so from 2001 to 2007, it was just getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and I was having fun. It was fun. The banks were calling me, wanting to loan me money, and then the world stopped. In early 2008, and I think it was Warren Buffett that said, "Now we're going to see who's been swimming without their trunks on," and that was me. I had been following, what they call the equity ladder, the equity step ladder. So, the duplexes would rise in value. So I'd refinance those, take that cash, go buy something else, and did that 3 or 4 times. So like June the 30th of 2008, all based upon appraisals and no funny business, I had a net worth in excess of $15 million. Probably a gross value of a little bit over 25 million, knock off all the debt. I'm like, I'm doing pretty good. There's one problem. I didn't have any cash on that balance sheet, so, and then really the world stopped around July the 30th, when Countrywide Mortgage announced that, oh, by the way, we don't have any money to close all those loans that are scheduled to close tomorrow, on July 31st. And that's when, already in 2008, Bear Stearns had gone bankrupt. Lehman Brothers had gone bankrupt. Countrywide Mortgage, went kaput. The largest mortgage lender in the world at the time. And there was a presidential election going on. So I figure, from June 30th, $15 million net worth, I figure 30 days later when everything was, I figured I was probably underwater $5 million. So I spend the next year basically giving everything back to the banks. And, I went all the way under. Ended up getting a job over the next couple of years with C-level positions and all this kind of stuff. And I always am ending up in these places where people owned or were trying to manage real estate. I never lost my desire for real estate. And frankly, I never blamed real estate for my problems. It's kind of like, it's the poor craftsman that blames their tools. So I was the one that structured those deals, and I was the one that did not prepare for the downside. And so learned several lessons along the way. Spent several years at, like I say, taking C-level positions until I laid myself off from my last employer. It was a media company, and we had to restructure and went through several rounds. I designed 3 layers of layoffs, and I was in the first round, and then turn around, then they were my client. But I never lost my desire for real estate. But the next time I wanted to do it different. I wanted to do only commercial properties. I didn't really want to do residential properties. So I found one uh, got some partners, board members at Harvard Grace Capital to help me form the new venture. And then we together bought our first office building in Spring Hill, Tennessee, which is where our headquarters are. And it was kind of funny. We closed that in January the 31st of 22. So this is post-pandemic, and I remember talking to people in California. They're like, "An office building? I mean, that's just the craziest thing." And a lot of people are still afraid of office now. But like, I'd managed this building for 4 years for the client. It was full, had been full 6 years. It's still full today. And I had one tenant that just gave me 2 weeks notice that they weren't going to renew, and they had their own problems. So it was probably best, but I filled a commercial vacancy in 2 weeks, and it's just, all real estate is local is what I'm trying to get at. So, anyway, so there's my journey, and what we're doing now is syndications of cash flowing, stabilized properties. We build in 12 months of reserves into our raise and into what I just call nice, boring investments. I've had all the excitement. We're not doing development or taking a lot of development risk. I've done that. Like I say, been there, done that, and lost the T-shirt. But that's your standard Harvard Grace offering that's out there is a stabilized cash flowing deal. Doesn't mean we won't ever have problems, but generally a stabilized property stays stabilized. So that's my journey in a nutshell.
No, I love it, man. And I was taking down a couple notes there while you were mentioning, while you were talking there. And there's a couple things that I really liked, man. And the first of which being something that I always find incredibly interesting is seeing that value of, folks that are working either directly in the real estate space or indirectly, like very well, like around the real estate space, like, CPAs working with real estate investor clients, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. It always amazes me, like how many of those folks, like eventually, like it just clicks and they see like what their clients are doing. It's like, like there might be something here, Yeah. And I think I always think it's incredibly interesting. You know what I mean? And it's like, wow, like, because it's cool because you get to see from literally like number for number, like what, these guys and gals are doing and how, wealth is being built and all that fun stuff. And from kind of the front lines, so that's always awesome.
Case in point, a lady who's a realtor, she was my very first client as a CPA, and she's still my client today. I call her my business mom because she's the same age as my mother. And this is a lady who became a real estate agent in order to provide income for her family because they were going through some stuff in the late 1980s. Becomes the best-selling agent at her firm year in and year out for 4 or 5 years in a row, and so no college degree, no nothing. She's just smart and hardworking, and has made so much money over the years doing fix and flips and small apartment buildings. It's just, real estate's not rocket science, and it's not a get rich quick scheme. It is a get rich slow scheme. And again, nothing earth shattering there. It's, you take care of the property and you rent it to good tenants. That's at the end of the day, all of us have to have some place to call home.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, 100%, man. And I did really like as well when you mentioned that, when things unfortunately kind of took a pivot, in 2008 and that type of thing, that you didn't blame the real estate. And I like that, like really hit me hard, man, because it's like, I guess, like taking ownership of, certain parts of it. And like, it's, it's easy to like when things go kaput, you know, be like, oh, like the market sucks, like, oh, whatever, like real estate's garbage, whatever. But it's like, that's not actually the answer. You know what I mean? And it's definitely a tough pill to swallow. I could imagine, you know what I mean? But
Yeah, most businesses fail because of their capital structure anyway, not because their underlying business model is flawed. You know, either they didn't raise enough capital on the front end, or they take on too much debt at one end. You know, I did almost all of that empire building with like a whole $1,000 of my own money in it. I mean, there was just not enough equity in my system, and the banks were fine with it. But at the end of the day, I'm the one holding the bag, and I want to say I knew better, but I was trying to get one of these deals to cash out before the fall, and the music stopped before that happened. So
no, I hear you, man. Wow. Yeah, it was definitely incredibly interesting, man, going from like that first 2-family to buying a portfolio. Like, what was kind of like going through your head, I guess, when you like found the deal, when it was like presented to you, like that kind of thing? Like, I guess, what was kind of like in your head, like, you know, going from 2 units to like potentially 40? Well, it ended up being 40, but
back in those days, it was my plan to use property managers, but we can talk about those in a minute. But so I've never done anything small, and pretty much I had always been attracted to deals that I could figure out a way to finance.
Yep.
And going back to that Carlton Sheets course, one of his steps for finding properties was go through the classified ads. Of course, that's back when we actually had newspapers. And sure enough, I just found it. It was I was in Franklin, south of Nashville. This deal was up in North Nashville. Found it in the classified ad. And it's kind of funny because this was a portfolio being sold by a guy who travels around even today, teaching people how to buy real estate for no money down. Not Carlton Sheets, but I won't give his name. He typically does his on cruises, and it was funny because I'm the bean counter, I'm the detail guy, and I think he wanted $1.5 million for him. I think I ended up buying him for like $900,000. And we worked the deal for a long time, and he just wanted out of it, and he was apparently making all the money he needed. Selling his courses. But I just found it and I said, well, that's a great way to really get halfway to having my own infrastructure, being able to hire, a real manager or figure out a way to do it myself. So that was an interesting deal. They're still good properties. They're still good properties. So.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. And it's crazy being up in the Northeast, like 20 minutes outside of Boston, man. Like, I know it was, a few years ago at this point, when that deal first happened, but hearing like 900,000 for, 30 something units, man. I'm like, up here, units go for like $150, 200 a unit plus, you know what I mean? So it's like, oh, that could be like a 6-family for us in, next town over, But
that was long before Nashville had started its
craze,
its current growth spate. I imagine that portfolio of properties would probably be about $3 million right now. So
that's awesome. But yeah, man. So take us kind of through, what you guys are focusing on now in terms of like, is it more, I know you mentioned, like smaller, maybe like more conservative, I guess you could say, types of offerings. Is it typically more like A, B class? Like, is it like, do you guys just stick to like office, or do you dabble in like multifamily, or I guess what's kind of like your bread and butter?
Sure. Well, unlike a lot of sponsors, we focus regionally and not on an asset class. That pretty different. So I actually live in southern Middle Tennessee now, about 20 minutes north of Huntsville, Alabama. So our focus is about 1 hour radius of where we are right now. Huntsville, Alabama. If you've not read anything about it, it's on fire. We own 3 properties down there now, and one up in Tennessee. Still, Southern Middle Tennessee is our focus. But the Huntsville market, Northern Alabama market, it just happens to be a lot more active right now. If we're going to do something else in Tennessee, then probably going to have to partner with a developer and buy it after it's stabilized, and because that's all that's going on right now is building new stuff in Tennessee. They're doing a lot of that in Alabama too. So we are asset class agnostic. So we will look at anything commercial, be it multifamily, be it office, medical office, suburban office, self-storage. We've looked at industrial. I never like those kind of deals, mainly because most industrial things have one tenant, which that's great for individual investors. But I mean, I like the diversity of multi-tenant. I mean, talk about stabilized. Yeah, I've seen it. I had clients back in 2008 when they went through the financial crisis, and Dollar General just declared, out of their 6,000 stores, okay, we're closing 1,000 of these. And they just walked away from leases. I know the guy they hired to tell everybody they walked away from them. And what are you supposed to do with an empty Dollar General building? Hope a liquor store comes along and wants it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, it's just a rectangle box, usually, in a pretty good high traffic area, but likely the building's a knockdown. And same way with the Family Dollars and all those kind of things. So I don't like single tenant stuff. We are looking at a multi-tenant industrial thing right now over in Decatur, Alabama, but long way from a potential deal. So we've never found a multi-family deal that we think is priced appropriately. So we haven't done one, but we're not opposed to it. I mean, multifamily is the anchor asset class of everything else. And I love tracking storage near multifamily, because running multifamily, which becomes a very retail type business, but it's kind of like multifamily without the toilets. Yeah. So where the rooftops are, you're going to need storage. We love storage, and we are not doing any Class A office or any sort of central business district for the obvious reasons. The financial media says office is in trouble. No. One subsector of office is in trouble. There's about 6, and medical office. You can't put an offer on medical office fast enough. Your doctor is not going remote, and he sure as heck isn't coming to see you. So, they got to have some place to put their MRI machines and all that. Medical offices are still very much in high demand, and that's office. So we love that kind of stuff. And then there's a class that I call suburban office that some people call retail. And so, we've got 2 of those, and this is where your dentist might be. It's where your State Farm agent might be, a mortgage company, or it's that kind of stuff. It's neighborhood stuff. And I like to define that as these are tenants who meet their customers at that place. Yeah. The downtown offices, that's just where companies used to collect all their employees together. They didn't quote do business there. And now they can all go remote, and they're all struggling getting their employees to come back. But the consumer facing businesses, those are I guess that's a definition of retail. But for the most of it's office use. So we like those kind of assets.
I think that's incredibly interesting, man. Especially to your point of all the headlines, just being super general, oh, office is in trouble, don't touch this, hoorah, but it's exactly, man, it's not like that. And I mean, to be honest with you, like, I'm not too familiar with office. I'm more pretty much like just multi, but I think it's incredibly interesting how there's the different subsectors of, the office asset type and how those individually, can be either positively or negatively impacted, depending on certain condition, and I think that's a really, really good point, especially when it comes to like the medical offices. Like, we're not at that day and age yet where, the doctors are coming to you like all the time, or like holograms or whatever the hell, like, you know what I mean? Like,
Right,
yeah,
right.
you're still going to have to go into the office and get your checkup, you know what I mean? And I
Yeah.
think that's huge, you know what I mean? And I think it's incredibly interesting. And I guess, what are some things of like, so say a potential LP comes to you, right, for one of your offerings, and maybe like they have a very, very general kind of understanding on office, like overall, but I guess, what are maybe like some questions that you get most often from people about like, oh, like, why do you like, medical, or maybe try to stay away from, this kind of type, or yeah, if that makes any sense.
Totally. Yeah. First off, I would say that most LPs don't ask enough questions, period.
Exactly.
I would say maybe 10% of our investors, and I'm not trying to insult anybody. Now, most of my investors I have pretty long relationships with. So it becomes a trust factor. But as we expand to more and more investors in our network, most of them are not asking us tough questions. We published a resource that's free on our website about questions you should be asking your syndicated deal sponsor, and you need to ask them about their track record. You need to ask them, what about reserves? Because there's a lot of sponsors out there that they want their go-to to be, one, they're going to stop distributions, and two, they'll just call for a capital call.
Yeah.
Well, I have all of those options, and we can certainly call for a capital call, but we're going to have burned through 12 months of reserves, and buddy, the world's going to have to come to an end before I do a capital call, or there's going to have to be an earthquake that swallowed the building, or whatever, and we'll all have bigger problems than that at the time. So, ask them, how are you positioned if things don't go according to projections? Again, what is your track record? Ask reasonable questions. They're not, you don't have to be the smartest guy in the room. They're all just common sense kind of questions. Is why this piece of real estate? And that's always a good question, because one of our axioms is all real estate is local, but all financing markets are global.
Yeah.
And that's why office in most southeastern cities is probably a pretty good deal, or a pretty good opportunity, if it's the right price based upon cash flow, net operating income, all that kind of stuff. Am I interested in office in Chicago? No.
Nope.
In any of these cities that are having population decreases, I'm not sure I would buy an apartment building in some of those cities.
No way.
And so that's why everything is truly local. And so you find out from your sponsor how well they really know the local market. That's one reason we focus geographically. I've lived my entire life in this area, and I know this market, and because we want to property manage every deal that we bring to market, our rule is, all right, we got to be within an hour of it. And one day I might be 2 hours from it because I'm up at the top end of our area and I got to go to the other end. But we have a team, so somebody's always within 20 minutes of one. But those kind of emergencies don't happen very often. But I think this is one of the most incredible markets in the country right now. Yeah,
no, I love that, man. And I do really admire the kind of like keeping it local, keeping it what having like your like crazy boots on the ground, like area where you grew up, like keeping everything essentially like just so aligned that it's like you literally know like that whole entire area like the back of your hand. You know what I mean? And especially, I assume, you're very familiar with like the other players in your market that are doing the same thing. And like, exactly, and I've always admired that variable of our industry, man, especially with the commercial stuff of like, just keeping a really local feel, especially if, a lot of your investors are local, your PM's local, your vendors are local, like everybody, is more likely to look into something further if they actually like just understand it, rather than like, oh, here's a random deal in Oregon with a team that like, hopefully is okay. Like, you know what I mean? But definitely not to knock that, but yeah, no, I love it, man. And it's such a valuable thing, just investing in your backyard and doing what and it's you can't beat it.
Yeah. I'm a bit of a control freak, so as long as we're driving the deal, we're going to keep it local. Now, that does not mean that I think passive people shouldn't be looking at others. Lots of our investors are nowhere near us, but again, that comes back to that relationship that we've developed and the trust factor to us. But they have a trust that we know this market. So.
Exactly. I did want to ask, man, is the do you guys have an in-house PM or?
We do.
Okay, gotcha.
And up until 6 or 8 months ago, it was me, but we've added 2 deals since then, and that was one of the first hires I wanted to make. We've got in-house accounting, of course, and added a property manager. She's fabulous. She's got about 15 years with some of the best commercial people. But why do I do that myself? It's not to make money. That's for sure. I've tried this several ways. You can manage the property, or you can manage your property manager. And I think property management is it's stratified in that if your property is, say, under $20 million in value, it's on the smaller end, you're pretty much forced to go with third-party property management. Nothing wrong with those guys. There's some very smart people, but the business model is broken. So, I got this property and I'm going to pay them 5%. So I got a storage facility it's worth $12 or $13 million.
Yeah.
And over the last 12 months, it's generated $800,000 in revenue. So I'm going to pay 4% of that number. I mean, buddy, that is a retail business. There's not a day that goes by that we are not on that property dealing with something stupid. Yep. And there's not enough money in the system for third-party people to make any reasonable professional income without them taking 20 more properties on. And then by the time they do that, then they can't manage anything well.
Yeah.
So it's not their fault. So we do it. I take it as a loss leader. And because mainly that's the way I know that I can deliver on the business plan that I sold to my investors. And you know what? I probably hurt myself by not charging market property management fees. I'm always usually 80% below whatever market seems to be, but that's okay. I mean, we are investors too. We're investors first. We invest with the Class A investors, and then we're also the sponsor. And so, we're not out trying to get property management business from other people, but we manage everything that we bring to market.
Yeah. No.
If you get beyond that, then now you've got a situation where a firm can put a team of people on your property and they can afford, and it becomes a decent, but the smaller properties, the 15 or $20 million and smaller,
Doesn't
It
make
just doesn't
sense.
make any
Yeah.
sense. Yeah.
Yep. I get you, man. No, it makes a lot of sense. I was curious, because I mean, especially I only know of a couple sponsors up in my neck of the woods that have an internal PM, and it's often a very common conversation in the multifamily sector, and I was
Mhm.
curious. I was like, oh, I wonder, especially being so like geographically centered, you know what I mean? Absolutely. Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. It does. Yeah, no, this was awesome, man. Seriously. So what's kind of next for the future? Just kind of keep chugging along, or are you guys kind of looking to like pivot in any way, jumping into the new year? What does your vision kind of look like?
Um, I don't have a big vision cast right now. We closed a deal last Friday that took us over 20 million in assets under management. And 2023 was a very difficult year to do deals. We worked on that deal for over 12 months.
Damn.
And difficult seller, difficult financing market. And it was, it was hard. And I had intended to do 4 deals this year. We got 2 done. 2024, I'm hoping there's going to be some deals out there. We keep hearing about this debt wall. And, a year ago, they said, oh, the debt wall is going to start. We're going to start seeing the defaults in Q3 of 23. And then it became Q4. And now it's Q2 of 24. But now, as of last week, I think it was 80% of investors surveyed think that the Fed's going to cut rates in March of this year. What's going to happen to the debt wall and all the default opportunities then? For the record, I do not think the Fed is going to cut rates in March. I don't think they're going to cut rates in Q2. I think the Fed is sensitive to not being accused of trying to manipulate elections. Chairman Powell said maybe 3 times in 24. I think that's October, November, December. I mean, maybe. I hope so, because it might make some deals easier to do. But so our vision is we hope to find some opportunities to buy because people can't refinance or and which ultimately is a sign of mismanagement. That's where our best deals come along, because if you've managed your property where you can't get the operating income we see a lot of people that they've just renewed people's leases with no increases, year after year, thinking they're doing a good thing. That's a problem. But our local economies around here are so powerful. I don't know that there's going to be a lot of opportunities. Yeah. Again, they might be in San Francisco, LA, Chicago, New York, the big centers like that, but I don't know that you're going to find them in Nashville, Birmingham, Huntsville, Atlanta, or certainly I don't think you're going to find any in Florida, except for the occasional one-off that was going to happen whether there was a debt wall or not. So back to your question, we're just looking for opportunities, and we hope to get 3 to 4 deals done in 24. We're looking at some creative deals right now, but no big plans. We're not going to go public or anything like that. And so just more boring deals, that cash flow, and that you shouldn't, that hopefully we never have to communicate an emergency to the partners about. So.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, no, I totally hear you. Yeah, it's absolutely. But cool, Stewart. Yeah, thank you so much for coming on here, man. This was a lot of fun.
It's a pleasure.
We're on like social media, and I know you mentioned you guys have a website as well, with an awesome ebook or e-product, something like that. Anything you want, I'll put in the description.
Sure. Yeah. If anybody wants to get in touch with me, you can go to stewardheath.com, or harvardgrace.com. It all points to the same place. To get some of our free stuff, we got more resources than the one I refer. Just go to resources, give us your email address, and you get to download it. You can also find contact information for me. Find my Calendly link. I invite anybody and everyone who wants to have their own private conversation. Just use the link. Book some time with me. I can talk about real estate forever.
That makes two of us, man. It's a lot of fun.
It is.
But cool. Alrighty, guys, definitely reach out to Stewart, and yeah.
That's a wrap for today's episode. We want to thank you for being a valued listener of the Creating Wealth Podcast. Make sure to visit www.creatingwealth.com to connect with us. Dive into our ever-expanding library of informative blogs. Get access to our private investor portal and explore a wide range of additional valuable resources. Stay tuned for our next episode as we continue to create wealth together.